Hi, I'm Brainerd Carey, Director of Praxis Center. Praxis Center is an online school for artists that helps them develop their careers. And today I'm talking about museum proposals, how to send a proposal to a museum. So to begin with, I would choose a local museum, something that's within an hour drive from you. And there's a number of ways to approach a museum. Sometimes museums have open calls. That's very common, but some don't have any open calls at all. And an open call means somewhere on the museum's website it says, we're having an open call for artists doing this kind of work or something like that. And you simply apply. But a proposal is something else. Proposal is something unsolicited that they didn't ask for. And one of the best ways to do a proposal is in the educational department. Because you see, a museum has two sections essentially. There's the educational section of a museum and there's the curatorial section of a museum. Curatorial is all about hanging art, of course. Educational is about workshops and public programs. So you can give a proposal of two types. You can give a curatorial proposal or you can give an educational proposal. Those are two sides of the same museum. Museums' goal is essentially educational, right? They're not selling art. Their goal is to educate the public. So if you're going to give an educational proposal, the way to do that is to look at their public programming. Go to the museum's website, look at their public programming, see what they're doing, and I would then, let's say you see that they're doing workshops for children, adults, teens, whatever it is, you'll see different types of workshops. And the workshops often relate to the exhibits that are happening. So if there's an exhibit of an artist that's coming up in several months, you might already see a workshop about that people can register for. And maybe that artist is a photographer and the workshop has something to do with photography. Or maybe that artist coming up is makes collage, and so the workshop might have something to do with collage. So what you can do is, and this is really enormously creative, but look at the museum's calendar. They plan almost at least a year in advance, and look at shows that are coming up in several months. So let's say you see in 8 months there's a show on graffiti, or in 6 months there's a show on graffiti, and you can say, hey, I'm a graffiti artist myself, and I'd like to give a proposal about doing a workshop where people can develop tags and learn a little bit about graffiti in a kind of enclosed experience with using markers and not spray paint. That's interesting because it helps them then understand a little bit about the show. The museum's interested because it will educate participants in what's actually happening in a current exhibit. So the way to word that proposal is almost exactly the way you see events announced. If you see in their public programming a workshop coming up by such and such a person, which will involve the following materials, an hour long, you'll do X, Y, and Z, and in this workshop you'll understand how such and such is made. You'll see it clearly there in like 3 sentences in how they explain the workshop and to sign up, right? And it's usually pretty kind of exciting 3 sentences that sounds like, oh, that's cool. I think I'll try that. That's how your proposal should be. And you can start off by saying, I have a proposal that I'd like to discuss with you, and it would be for the show that opens in 6 months, and the announcement would sound something like this. And then you put those 2 or 3 sentences in there. That sounds like it's already done. Say, I'd like to discuss more details with you about this. So, and I'll follow up if I don't hear from you. But please reply if you're interested, and we can set up a Zoom chat, a 10-minute Zoom chat, or whatever you want to do. That's the way to do an educational proposal. A curatorial proposal is the other idea, the other section of the museum, which is a little trickier. If you do the educational proposal, there's a good chance that they'll be interested and they will pay you for that because you're now a teacher, an artist teacher in a museum. If you want to do a curatorial proposal, you're basically proposing to hang some art in their museum. You're not showing them your art. You're saying, I have a proposal of where to put art and what kind of art. So that proposal could be anything from an outdoor sculpture, but it should be something that's in a place where they don't normally exhibit art. right? Like a type of hallway or some part of the museum that's not used. Because every other part of the museum that has exhibits, those exhibits are all mapped out for the next year or two at least. And there are curators that handle each one of those spaces. So if you say, in the small gallery on the third floor, I'd like to make a proposal for this, there's not that great a chance that'll happen because likely that's either already planned or if it's not, another curator is in charge of planning that. But if there's another space in the museum that you notice is flexible or things change there, or a space that is just not used very much, again, like a stairwell or something else, you can propose that it happen there and outline the proposal. And that's one way to reach them and pique their interest. And in that case, you'd be writing not to the educational department, but to the curatorial department, who has the ability to say, "That's interesting. Tell us more." So these are two ways to write to museums. Again, museums are divided, almost all of them, into two departments: educational department, again, and you'll see all of their announcements under public programming on their website. Or curatorial department is the other half of the museum, where you see all the exhibits that are mentioned, on their site that are upcoming, and that's a different section of the museum. The two proposals I spoke of today, first one was for the educational department. That's a paid gig, if you get it, and a great way to just get involved in museums. The second proposal was curatorial. That's often not a paid gig, but sometimes there's some fees involved that they'll give you, artist fees, and that's about exhibiting work of your own or even proposing an exhibit of more than one artist, and you're included in that. So that's all for this talk. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can make comments below, and if you have suggestions for other talks you'd like to see here, just comment below and I'll do my best to make those talks. I wish you well with your studio practice, and thanks for watching.